Hello, everybody. Today is Monday, March 10th, 2025. And we are about to embark on a journey uh, for Zacks Professional Services on travel and shipping, world travel and shipping. So, this will be the airlines and all the different heavy goods shippers and transporters, freight movers in the world. So, out of this, of course, will come the world's top transportation stocks. Great subject. And we're going to do it in the usual fashion with top stocks by market capitalization being part one, top stocks by the maximum number of analysts in part two, and in part three, we'll do the Zacks Rank element, which is by the largest percentage change in current fiscal year earnings estimates. So this is an ongoing series of topics that we like to organize around these sectors and industries because it gives us a framework to work from, and uh, and then we can explore, how to play these areas. And there's always a surprise or two or three in these areas, and this will be no different. Okay, so we will go through this table, but first I should point out these are my views. I do have a PhD from MIT in economics, and they are not necessarily the views of Zacks Investment Research. So what we've got here today is two transportation areas. Transportation air transportation, ticker 57. Of course, that's going to be over here, and you can see all the way down to here. We've got all of these different air transportation. Now, of course, Delta and United and Ryanair are in there. Of course, Southwest Air, Air China, LATAM, Lufthansa, American, of course, Cathay Pacific. But you also got FedEx and UPS. So keep in mind there are air freight shippers in here. Of course, they also move things on the ground. So keep in mind these are somewhat hybrid. Of course, the biggest one will be GE Aerospace. That is their aircraft engine division, and we keep it in this space as well. So the largest stuff in this space, GE Aerospace, United, UPS, and FedEx are going to be the largest market cap areas. And then, of course, down here we have all of the different airlines, with the exception of AerCap Holdings, which is an aircraft leasing company at 19 billion in market cap. But as you can see, anywhere from 9 billion in market cap to 36 billion, 37 billion in market cap is where those airlines are typically found. Down here, we've got all the other transportation areas. Now, of course, a lot of these are the biggest ones are railroads. Union Pacific, Canadian National, Norfolk Southern, DHL group here down is, you would think would be perhaps up here, but they're down in this group. I think it's because they're international, more focused. Old Dominion Freight Company. We've got Moeller Maersk, that's the shipping company. Kuehne+Nagel, another shipping company. Costco is a shipping company. Viking Holdings is a shipping company. Central Japan Railways, that is the big Japanese supplier of rails, and that company. Bolloré, we'll talk about, is one of those interesting companies you probably didn't know about. They're a French company. So keep in mind, you can always come back here to the ticker, company name, and the market cap for a reference. Now, of course, over here, we're going to have the same set of companies, but ranked by the number of covering analysts. And you're going to see, of course, some change in this structure and some new names that pop up. So keep in mind, this is actually where the market, the Wall Street, is interested in finding business, and issuing and selling securities and following stocks. All that will be found over here. So, for example, we've got Coke Holdings we'll talk about today. This is a stock, makes a ton of money, and you probably don't know about it. We will also talk about other names down here that you probably won't know. Azul, we will talk about today. And this is interesting always to do this compared to that, because, of course, this is just the very biggest ones. Some of these are not actually this big. Air Canada is in here. Azul, of course, only 800 million. But plenty of other names. There's Frontier Group, which is a smaller airline in the United States, 1.6 billion. And GXO Logistics, 4.5 billion. A lot of names. C.H. Robinson in here. All kinds of stuff to look into. Saya, we will also talk about. This is a very strong company, 10 billion in market cap, and it pops up. So over here, we've got the Zacks Rank where things are moving fast. And of course, at the top of the list, the names I've already mentioned, Azul and Frontier. We will get into that. There's, of course, Allegiant Air, Japan Airlines, Copa, like I talked about, GE Aerospace, which we will mention, and of course, a lot of other stuff down in here. But keep in mind, you can always start out by organizing your thoughts into the highest market cap ones, the highest number of followed ones, and of course, the Zacks Rank, what's moving quickly right now. Okay, so latest trends and develops in air transportation. First of all, we got modernization initiatives at the FAA and the National Airspace System, next generation air transport systems, next gen, and advanced technology and procedures. So there's some modernization, of course, going on in air transportation. There's also advanced air mobility, air taxis, of course, and cargo delivery, electric vertical takeoff. That's an amazing idea. You can imagine what would happen into airports if we had electric vertical takeoff. Landing aircraft, these things, eVTOL, are growing rapidly. Air traffic control staffing, you've probably heard a lot about this. Nationwide air traffic controller shortage. And they need to keep low vacancy rates because, of course, they got to keep this as a very critical function. And safety and efficiency in air traffic control. This is a very important area. Smart shipping. Facilities of autonomous vessel navigation and smart ship vessel speed monitoring. So smart shipping is now in play. Transportation management systems, asset utilization, business leverage as a transportation management system, fleet management systems, enhancing visibility in the supply chain. So all kinds of really interesting things, particularly in the freight businesses, about transportation management. Regulatory change, expediting infrastructure development, like airports, runways, things like that. Reduce potential delays in funding. Of course, we have a lot of issue with funding delays in roads, bridges, and transit systems right now. That has become an issue. So here we've got kind of a backdrop, and we like to do this. Of course, we go and look out on Axios and AP News and various other sources of news to pull this together. But this gives you a background on what's going on in air. And of course, it is active. Now, transportation other, what do we have to say? Integrated frictionless travel, mobility as a service, MAAS, probably don't know that one. Infrastructure optimization, platforms for ticketless travel, interesting. Introduction of innovations in micro mobility, like just moving one person around in a small thing, pod, of course. The shift from mechanical minds to digital brains, of course, this is all AI optimizing traffic and efficiency. This is definitely happening. I see a lot of ads on TV for this type of thing. Cloud-based systems adoption, software as a service, of course, SaaS, higher profitability. And then down here, visibility and anti-theft GPS systems, keeping on top of where things are, increasing the traceability of this equipment. Self-driving trucks, already out there, already used by a lot of grocers and big warehouses. Vehicle to vehicle, V2V communication, vehicle to vehicle communication. We want remote working vehicle to remote working vehicle talking about potentially better drivers than human operators. Yeah, I think they probably are at some point. Drones, we know this has become big through the war space in the Ukraine. These are now really fast developing. Pilotless drones, also getting used for last mile delivery, and packages to citizens companies by drones is happening. So keep in mind, this is also creating a lot of interesting activity in this space beyond your imagination in many ways. Okay, part one, talk stops by market capitalization. Let's get through this. Number one, I've got down here, I've got Union Pacific on the return on equity. You can see Union Pacific has done extremely well, spiked up right out of the COVID, but still very, very strong stock. Here is their chart. And you can see that, it really hasn't moved much as a stock for a few years now, gone sideways, largely because the spike is over, but it's still, from a return on equity perspective, and these analyst revisions prove it, the company is worth looking into. GE Aerospace, we talked about this name already. Again, big spike early on, coming off of it, but still high from a return on equity perspective. Looking at 22 here for GE and 41 for Union Pacific. Incredible there. They design, develop, and produce jet engines. And of course, this is the spinoff from the overall system. And this is why they spun it off, because you can see it's been cranking up as a stock, and their estimate revisions are doing quite well. So keep in mind, you can look at an old name like Union Pacific and GE Aerospace and find a good stock. Right, earnings forward 12-month. I'm looking at this one, Old Dominion Freight, ticker ODFL. Less than truckload motor carrier and national services for single integrated union-free service. So here's their chart. And of course, a lot of times people have been over-promising and then cutting estimates for freight recovery, but every year it does continue to go up. And this is another one of these stocks that probably hasn't done a whole lot in the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of issues out of the COVID period for these types of companies. You can see, it's been trading at the same multiple for some time, very volatile. So consider this stock a trading stock. You can get in and out of the range. Over this period, it might have some issues too. Of course, if we head into a recession, this would be a stock to watch out for. And of course, the tariffing issue falls on Old Dominion Freight. Total debt. I'm going to talk about Central Japan Railway Company, CJPRY. This is the Shinkansen, and as well as other things, but Tokyo, Nagoya, and Osaka, if you ever go to Japan, this is the Shinkansen fast train service between their biggest areas. So headquartered in Nagoya, which is kind of midway between Tokyo and Osaka. And they have incredible size. That's why I'm picking up their debt here. Bolloré I talked about down here, they've been cranking up. And this is, a French conglomerate based probably outside of Paris, but they are also quite a big company and adding size over time. That's right in there. So always interesting stuff to pick up just because of their size. I'll use the total debt charts. Reinvestment rate. Of course, who's reinvesting a lot? One of these airlines over in Europe, Ryanair Airlines, ticker RYAAY. They are ultra low fare carrier across Europe, point-to-point routes, UK, continental Europe, Morocco, Israel, Ireland. Ryanair, they have been reinvesting in their business and growing that network. Here's their chart. Obviously, they had a struggle coming out of COVID, but now they're coming back. There was a bit of an overplayed hand, and now actually looks like a pretty good entry point for the stock at this point in time. Ticker Ryanair Holdings, RYAAY. Depreciation amortization. I just want to point out another name here. I pulled their chart. This is Deutsche Lufthansa, DLAKY. They also have the largest, something big going on, and they are showing you that same pattern. Very low stock price at $7 a share. Really hasn't come back, but you got to ask yourself with the German investment, where Deutsche Lufthansa is in a nice place for you. Take a look at Deutsche Lufthansa, DLAKY. In this current environment, this could be a sleeper stock, and it is cheap. Top two, maximum number of analysts, of course. I'm going to look into Southwest Airlines, which is, obviously spiked up but has had trouble lately. Again, might be the right time to look at the Southwest Airlines, ticker LUV. And down here, we've got Canadian Pacific Kansas City. Again, if tariff issuing, big time uncertainty about this, you might get a pullback in a name like this and provide you some leverage, because Kansas City and Canadian Pacific are linking basically Mexico and Canada all the way through the center part of the country, moving that supply chain freight around. So, coming out of the pandemic, always too much optimism, cutting estimates, but growing out of it too. A lot of the names here to look at. Go ahead and take a look at these names. Here's Delta Airlines. That's been a really strong stock and name. But maybe you want to get into love because it's down here at the bottom and get right up. Here's American. American's starting to get their estimate versions firmed up, and they've also been in a long sideways pattern. The earnings. Top earning stock in this part is FedEx, ticker FDX, you know that one, of course. And they have, obviously had some struggles during the pandemic. They came back, they had some more restructuring struggles, and now they're coming back out of that. Down here, we got Norfolk Southern is the top stock. A lot of cyclicality in Northwest Southern. They come up and down. Keep that in mind. And they run a freight railroad, and that's the Atlantic side and the Gulf Coast port side. So this is basically East Coast of the United States system, and you want to keep that in mind. Net margin, who's at the top? Delta Airlines, of course, we already talked about them. But down here, the name I mentioned earlier, ticker SAIA. It's a leading less than truckload carrier. Again, this is where they use a lot of AI and operations sophistication to load those trucks and move things around. So they've got 152 terminals in 38 states, and they're headquartered out of Georgia. So take a look at SAIA and Delta. And in terms of profitability, they're leading the way. You can see SAIA has definitely been improving over time. Total debt to capital, you got to worry here maybe, or maybe you don't. Maybe these are the names that are playing out. I've got JetBlue, and here's their chart. JetBlue is not doing so well. Doesn't look that great, but it is at a low level. Get a bounce out of that could help. XPO, I played in the large cap trader. It's got a really nice pattern and a really nice chart, underlying estimate revisions. They've been doing a lot of restructuring of their business to get it more streamlined, and it has paid off. And you can see they're now back at the highs during they reached the COVID. Really a nice trading stock for the last year and a half. Hard to know where it goes from here, but a really nice stock chart for you to look at. CapEx to depreciation. Who's big here? Air Canada, actually. Down here, we've got Schneider National. This is largest hire trucking fleet. So dry van, bulk transport, intermodal, supply chain management. These guys are all kinds of types of shippers for trucking fleets. And again, you probably don't know that name, so go ahead and take a look at SNDR. Fascinating stuff to learn. I'm sure you were probably not aware of a lot of these names until this talk. All right, we're going to get through a little bit more stuff. This is the Zacks Rankiness. Number one, we've got Azul. I told you about this one. Ticker AZUL, largest airline in Brazil in terms of departures and destinations. So a Brazilian name to watch and to know about. It's growing its revenues. It's coming up. Down here, I've got this Expeditors International of Washington, ticker EXPD, third-party logistics provider out of Seattle. Again, freight forwarding consolidation, air and ocean. And they've been steady performer, nice chart patterns to look for stuff. Here's Delta up here. A lot of names you can track that we have talked about, but I just pulled up Azul and Expeditors International for the Zacks Rankiness event of finding a name you didn't probably know about. All right. Also, though, cash flow yield. We've got American. Down here, we got the Okeanis Eco Tankers, ticker ECO. It's a Greek shipper. I bet this is tied to moving some of that Russian oil surreptitiously. And over here, you've got Flex LNG. They are moving liquid LNG. This is a big business, folks. Keep in mind, you might want to look into FLNG. Always interesting to find these names that you have never heard of. Ticker ECO and ticker FLNG. All right. More names you better know about. Of course, this is always going to come up with the Zacks Rankiness. So we're going to look at names that are moving. Frontier Group, ULCC. Of course, they're out of Denver. They're one of these regional airlines that has stayed alive. And Golden Ocean Group, ticker GOGL. This is big shipping company, bulk cargo shipping company. They probably to China, a lot of it. Out of Hamilton, Bermuda, a lot of these are get registered offshore. Ticker GOGL. Enterprise value to sales, I told you we talked about this. Copa Holdings, here's their share price and estimate revision chart. Probably don't know this name. This name, they make a ton of money. All right, they're based in airlines out of, I think it's South America, generally in the Caribbean, and they're based in Panama City, Panama. So this is basically the Panamanian airline for Central America and South America in the north. And really a nice chart, really a nice story. They make a ton of money, folks. Look into ticker CP. EPA. All right, so I just want to point out, this is air transportation in blue, and this is other transportation in green. So what you can see here, air transportation has had a really nice bounce in price to sales and stocks. And however, the earnings are over in that other category. Airline companies don't actually make a lot of money. They've been boosting, revenues lately, but their earnings are really not coming along. It's a tough business. Whereas some of these transportation and other stocks are really in a sweet spot. Keep in mind that, going into the transportation and other business, like I talk about Azul and Copa, there's names in there, and they are interesting. Also, again, here's a blue. This is air transportation, and this is the other. And so, again, enterprise value to free cash flow is going to be higher for these names in the other space than the airlines. They track at a lower valuation because there's all kinds of worry about these things. But keep in mind that valuation is specific to industries, and you can see just how different they can be. They can be quite different. Okay, so that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I brought a lot of names to your attention. I hope I gave you a framework of understanding of how this industry is evolving. Quite interesting stuff. I'm sure you would like the slides, so go ahead and give me, or not me, but the company, Zacks Professional Services, a call. The phone number, 866-794-6065. The email, probably just as well, strategycall@zackspro.com, or find us on the web at www.zackspro.com. We have a Twitter feed at ZA Tools if you'd like to follow us there. But generally, for stocks in industry context, the slides and the framework are critical. So go ahead and get these slides from us. 866-794-6065, or give us a call or send us an email, strategycall@zackspro.com.